Okay, so we are streaming, we are live. So welcome everyone here in our offices. And I think it's about the right time to find your places for sitting. And I believe we will need those during the first part of the program. So definitely do find a place to sit. And very glad that I can welcome you today. Because today's topic is a cultural one, and it's about flexible work. And I think this is a very, very big topic in Applifting because we are trying to have as flexible workplace as possible. And I'm so glad that I see so many people interested in this topic because I think it's the future of work. And yeah, so thanks for being here with me tonight. We have 4 great speakers here today. And I'll introduce one by one before each presentation. And the first one is Monique. She's Dutch, and it will be a bit not standard start of a meetup because it will be a meditation. So go ahead, come to us. And also, one thing, I'm not sure if it will apply to the first presentation, but after each presentation there will be a Q&A. So do open the Slido on your mobile phones. It's also there on the white wall.
It's the other way around.
And if you have any questions, we'll be more than happy to answer them. So, Monique, take it away.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Let me see if I can, put it over here. So, hello, good evening, everyone. My name is Monique de Vries. As Philip said, I'm from the Netherlands, but I'm living here in Czech Republic already now for 14 years. I've worked in corporate life in 3 different big corporates over the last 13 years. But in the last year, I've started to focus myself a little bit more on yoga and meditation. As I think everybody during the pandemic, we had a bit of challenging periods that we couldn't travel, but still working under pressure. So I've learned the art of meditation and yoga, and I would like to help you, guide you through a 10 minutes of meditation course, where I hopefully you will get some benefits from it and maybe get hooked to it as well. Is there anybody new here to meditation? Or everybody has already done something? Great. A few newbies, that's amazing. So as I've asked here for today to sit on a chair, perhaps instead of leaning against the back, perhaps we can sit a little bit more forward. And perhaps, let me also start the music already, because we have some relaxation music here with that, if I can get that working. I am so sorry. Yes, thank you very much. So while we are seated onto our chair, perhaps we can have a look at where our ankles are and where our heels are, and if we can place our heels directly underneath the knees. And then noticing how we are sitting on our chair, if we are sitting on the top of our sit bones, those 2 little bones that you can really dig into the chair, and then perhaps we can close the eyes for a moment or take a soft gaze towards the top of the front chair. And then from here, take a deep inhale and start lengthening the spine. And on the exhale, see if you can ground those sit bones just a tiny bit more. Let's relax the hands into our lap or perhaps onto our knees. And if you like, you can turn the palms facing upward to receive more energy from outside. And then while we are sitting here, let's take a deep breath in through the nose. Open the mouth and sigh it all out. Let's do that one more. Deep inhale. And open the mouth and release. Then let's take one last deepest inhale. And hold the breath this time on the top. Relax the shoulders just a little bit while we hold the breath and noticing those sensations into our body. And then take a little sip of air more. And then open your mouth and let it all out. And then let's close the mouth and channeling the breath only through the nostrils if we can. And then just focusing the attention inwards towards the breath. Are we able to follow that whole stream of air coming through our nostrils, noticing that that sensation is a little bit cold, and then the air is traveling through our nostrils to our sinuses, and then the air is spreading out throughout our whole body, expanding the belly and expanding the rib cage. And on the exhale, can we notice how the belly is contracting and how that little space in between the rib cage is slowly closing in? And then that warm sensation of air coming out of our nostrils and touching our upper lip. And then can we start noticing those small little pauses in between the inhales and the exhalations? And are those the same length as that little pause in between your exhalation and your inhalation? And noticing as well the length of your inhalation and exhalation. Can we notice if maybe your inhalation is a little bit more shorter than your exhalation? And would we be able to make them of the same length? No need to pressure ourselves. We do what feels comfortable for you. And maybe from here we can start focusing the attention towards our bodies. Let's start with the soles of the feet. Let's take that sensation of the both feet firmly into the ground and just notice if the energy can come all the way from the heels towards the knees and traveling all the way up towards the hips. And can you notice if one foot is maybe a little bit more grounded than the other? If you notice if maybe your right or your left foot is more firmly into the ground, will you be able to equalize the pressure in both feet? And then again, noticing if those sit bones are still firmly and grounded into the chair. And otherwise making a little small adjustment there to start lengthening the spine again. And notice what we do with our shoulders. Shoulders stacked on top of the hips? Are they maybe leaning a little bit more forward? We're able to widen the collarbones on the next inhale just to bring a little bit more space into the heart and into the lung center. And on the exhale, see if you can relax the shoulders just a tiny bit more. And noticing all the sensations traveling all the way up from the hips towards the shoulders. Can we notice if there might be a little bit of tension in between the shoulder blades and in the neck? No need to make any judgments or opinions about that, but rather noticing how it feels. And are we able just to make a little micro movement into the shoulders just to widen it a little bit more? More air and more space. If any other thought is popping up into your mind at this moment, just let it be. That's okay. Sometimes during meditation, our monkey mind starts playing up and we start thinking about what we need to do today or tomorrow, or what happened yesterday or today. Maybe we can wrap those small little thoughts into a bubble and just let them float away into the air. There's no need to think about these moments at this moment because we cannot impact them at this moment. But rather being present in the here and now and focusing your attention back towards the breath and towards what we feel into our bodies. Can we notice again what we've done with our feet? Are our knees starting to fall wide open? Can we stack them back again on top of the ankles? And while we breathe in, maybe pressing in through the feet to get that length into the spine again, as if somebody is holding a cord in from the tailbone towards the top of the head, and then lifting it from the crown of the head up towards the ceiling. deep breath in through the nose. And a deep breath out. Let's do that 2 more times. Deep inhale through the nose. And deep exhale. And the very last one. And the last breath out. Start opening the eyes again and returning back towards the here and now and towards the office. And I hope that gives a little bit of calmness in towards the mind. These type of exercises you can always do during your work or anywhere where you are, in the tram or in the metro. And whenever you feel a little bit overwhelmed or you think that you need a little bit of calmness, you can always place those ankles right underneath the knees, sit right on top of those sit bones and lengthening the spine. And if you just take 5 inhalations and exhalations and focusing on the breath, that will make a whole world of difference. And it almost feels like a mini holiday. I would say without traveling, a free one. Great. That was it for me for today. If you have any questions, let me know. You can always join me for a yoga class. I'm teaching here around the corner in Yoga Karlin every Tuesdays and every Thursdays. Tuesdays is a little bit gentle. There we do for beginners and more relaxations. Thursdays is a little bit more power. Vinyasa, there we do a bit more of strength. But I would be happy to welcome you one day into the Shala and practice yoga with you. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Monique. Can you turn down the music? Oh, it's here, right, sorry. What an unusual way to start a meetup, right? But I mean, it was very refreshing and, by the way, exactly what I needed today. And yeah, maybe we should do this again because it was great, thank you. Does anyone have any questions for Monique? No one? There's nothing on the Slido yet, so yeah, unusual, so understandable. So thank you very much for being at the meditation. And now we'll move to the second presentation, which will be in 10 minutes. So you have time to grab a beer, grab a snack, and we will get on with it at 7:30. Thanks. So it's time for another presentation, or maybe the first presentation actually, because the first one wasn't actually a presentation. And we will have a really interesting guest, which is David Šupej from Sedlakova Legal, which is a legal agency from Brno. And he will be talking about flexible work, as we expected, but from a legal perspective. And that means he's a lawyer. But from the brief conversation I had with him, you are in good hands because he has a good sense of humor. A bit dry, a bit British, but it will be okay. Trust me on that. So, David, it's your time.
Hi, everybody. I'll try to do my best. As you can see from a legal perspective, it's kind of a buzzkiller, isn't it? Never mind. Also, as you can see, I'm not a native speaker, but I'll promise to perform my best version of Chenglish possible. So, working hours, why so serious? What are we going to talk about in these brief 15 minutes? Why do we even need rules regarding working hours? Because even though it may not seem so, you live in a great period. You live in a time when you don't have to work for 16 hours a day as an industrial worker at the beginning of 18th century. You do not have to work, at least in legal theory, according to labor code, for 12 to 14 hours a day as at the beginning of the next period. In Czechoslovakia, we have 8 hours working day established almost 100 years ago with the establishment of our state. And also, the evolution with these rules goes in hand with prohibition of child labor, which is also some sort of a step. And nowadays, maybe you know that children can work when they are minors just in some specific areas, such as commercials and so on. So, first of all, we need to talk about working hours. Why about this boring topic? It's because the employer has an obligation to schedule the working hours, and it's the employer who determines the start and the end of the shifts. So you have to receive some sort of schedule, and it's not because the employer wants to do it. It's because that's his obligation under the law. And also, you know that the duration of fixed weekly working time is approximately 40 hours per week. Should you be working as a doctor, it's much more. But in general, 40 hours, and the maximum period of one shift may not exceed 12 hours. So these are the ground rules in which the employer has to find some sort of a fit to address all his needs. And first document we're going to talk about is the working time schedule. You know that the employer is obliged to make a written, and when I say written, I mean electronic as well, weekly working time schedule, and to inform you about any change in regard to this schedule. So there, I know some employees prefer to schedule their own time. However, it's an obligation of the employer to do so, and there is no way around it. Usually, we can talk about few regimes regarding the time schedule. You all are familiar with fixed working hours, you know, from 8 to 16:30, including lunch break. So that's the general, most known possible regime of working time schedule. However, there are more flexible possibilities. On one hand, you have a system which you probably know, short and long weeks and their combination. So 1 week you work, you know, like 24 hours, and next week you work more. And from the point of flexibility, there is something called flexible working hours, meaning that the employer should set some mandatory periods in which the work has to be done, and usually there are two at the beginning and at the end. Other periods in which the employee himself decides when he wants to start and when he wants to finish his work. So unfortunately, in labor law is a quite rigid discipline. So therefore, it's not so flexible in all the ways you'll need it, all you want, but that's what the employer has to work with. Moreover, why do you have to bother with keeping records of the periods when you worked? That's because the employer is obliged to keep such record for each employee indicating the beginning, the start of the shift, the end of the shift, and all other possible aspects such as overtime and so on, because based on these records, you'll be entitled to compensation for your overtime work, for your night shifts, and so on. So that's the first reason why employer needs to keep these records. And also, in case of any control, not keeping these records represents administrative offense, and the employer can face a fine. So that's the reason why we have these boring rules in place. On a better note, there are mandatory breaks. You know, there's a break after 6 hours of continuous work, and also there's something called continuous daily rest and continuous rest during the week. All these have to be followed by the employer, and the employer should take this in account when planning your shifts as employees. And usually there is no second lunch break. And now, if we speak about flexibility, we have to address home office as well. So how does home office work? First of all, it's not entitlement benefit. It's not something the employees are entitled to. It's upon the decision of the employer whether the home office will be provided or not. So that's the first case. However, in reality, in these days, it's sort of a necessity. The other issue is that if you want to have a home office, it's possible that, but there needs to be a written agreement, usually dealing with aspects such as where, how often, who will authorize the home office, and so on. And also, there's the big question which raised during the COVID, but now we have some clear rules about it regarding the costs which the employee has to pay during the home office. There are 3 possible regimes: no reimbursement at all. There can be provision of lump sum, as stated by authority, and there's a possibility of actually proving your costs to the employer. Regarding the home office, I know when I work on a home office, I tend to shift my schedule as I want to, but that's not possible, or at least it's not so easy. First of all, working hours, even on home office, are still determined in the basic regime by the employer, so you have to follow the same routine as if you were in your office. On the other hand, there's a special regime or possibility, the one and only, which you'll find in labor code, when the employee schedules his own working hours depending on his needs. But it's a special regime, and it should be described in the agreement, as I spoke about it a few moments ago. But from the point of flexibility, it's another possibility how to get your life and work in line as well. What are the troubles or issues the employer faces in relation to home office? That's the occupational health and safety rules, which has to be followed all the times, regardless of the place of your workplace. That's why, as an employee, you have to undergo some sort of a lecture on home office in relation to your health and safety. That's the first issue. Other issues when you want to perform home office from abroad are also legal, boring one issues like taxes, levies, work injury, and possibility that employer will establish his permanent presence in a different region, which also has implications in relation to levies and taxes. So that's the general reason why the lawyers will tell you that they cannot advise you on having home office from abroad, because those are the troubles the employer and the employee as well will have to deal with. And unfortunately, there are no easy rules making this situation of home office from abroad any easier. So that may be the cause of some sort of hesitation on the side of some employers when you ask them that you want to work like, I don't know, half a year from Spain. That's the main reason. And now I was also asked to mention differences between freelancers and employees. I was talking all the time about employees, but if you are a freelancer, you are an independent contractor, which means that no laws regarding labor and work are connected to you. You do not need to follow these rules, so it's just up to you. When will you work? How will you work? From which place will you work? The only expectation that should be on the side of the company is when will I get the output of your work. That's all. But that is the main difference between employees and freelancers. In theory, employees are controlled by the employer from the beginning of their shift until the very end of their shift, and so on during the week. When I have, as a company, a relationship with a freelancer, I don't care where does he work, how often does he work. I just want the output. So that's something that the freelancers should realize, that they are independent contractors. They work as an independent contractors. They are entrepreneurs, meaning that they do not perform dependent work. They are not controlled by the company in the same way as contractors. And therefore, the possibility, meaning the flexibility of their work, is in general unlimited, unlike the rules which the employees have to follow. So that was really, really brief.
Thanks, David. We actually have a few questions from Sido and possibly a few more in the room. And first, this is a really complicated issue and a really complicated topic, so thanks for the tips. And from my experience, it's like incredibly easy to set up these things for contractors and incredibly difficult to set them up for employees. So I really appreciate the overview. And the questions we have are, doesn't the 40-hour promote in managers/supervisors the unhealthy pattern of focusing on time spent on tasks over outcomes? We are no fabric workers in IT.
Never mind the labor code, just applies to any employee, and there are no differences for any branches of work or fields of work. So the rules are the same for all employees, even though they are not suitable in the 21st century economic.
So if they are not suitable, how to deal with that? Can you give some legal advice?
You can't, you know, that's the law and you have to follow it. So that's the problem when dealing with employees, meaning when dealing with the rules regarding the employees and the weekly working hours and so on.
Mm-hmm. Okay. The next question is, when you say that the rules are rigid, can you give an example of the company that follows them to the T? Reality seems distant, for example, paid overtime for doctors. So does anyone really follow these rules?
I'm advising all of my clients to follow all the rules, because if they should not, they'll be possibly facing a fine. So you have to do your best to follow the rules, and that's it. Regarding the regime of doctors and their overtime work, that's a whole different and specific area.
Okay, thanks. So if company has contractors, so body shop or team lease, if they want to enforce similar rules, do they just put them into the contract?
No, I wouldn't advise on that, because you cannot mix the rules which applies to employees with the relationship you have with your freelancers, because that's a wholly different relationship. That's a B2B relationship.
Okay. Thanks for the answers. Are there any questions in the room? Anyone? Yeah.
Okay.
Hi.
Hello.
How would you balance having a contractor working for you 40 hours a week, so it feels like he's employed or they are employed, so the Schwarz system somehow is in the place, so how you deal with it? How do you balance it?
Yeah, that's the question of illegal employment, and it would take like 3 hours of presentation, but it's not easy, but it's doable. Especially in IT, you can do it. You can have a contractor working exclusively for you for such a period of time. However, there still needs to be some breaks in the contract, assuring that he's not entirely controlled by the company in the same way as an employee.
Yeah. All right, thanks.
Thanks. Any more questions? Anyone? Okay, doesn't seem like it. So thank you very much, David. Oh, sorry, I didn't notice you, sorry. Oh, perfect. So, based on your presentation, isn't it just better to work as a contractor? Mainly talking of IT sector, but it can apply for a lot of roles.
In general, it is, if you are ready to face the need to get your customers, the not being sure of your wage coming in every month, you need to set your brand, promote your product, and so on, which is a different it's a different game from what the employees has to do. So yes, it can be better for you if you are available to take these risks as an independent entrepreneur.
Right. Thank you very much. No more questions on Slido. Anyone here? Okay.
Thanks. Hi. So Thomas here. I might just have a follow-up regarding the sort of like Schwarz system. This is. Do you have some sort of like a comparison how Czech Republic approaches it in the companies regarding to how our neighbors, for example, Germany, Austria, Slovakia, approach the same problem? Because for me it seems that this almost in IT is sort of like a standard tolerated pattern, that companies hire people, individuals, or even whole teams, but they fully manage them themselves. So it's not sort of like an output-outcome managed. It's like a regular alternative to regular employment work. And this has been also said some time ago, like a year ago in the parliament, even by sort of like the politicians and officials, that this is something like a standard pattern for this kind of industry, and it would not be able to work without it. So what's your opinion on that?
First of all, I do not have the comparison, sorry. I can advise you strictly on Czech law, so usually I don't work with German law and so on. Second of all, I know what you are aiming at, however, it's still, and it can be illegal employment even in IT branch, so the contract has to be set in the right way, so that the contractor doesn't in reality behave as another employee of the company. It's still an issue. The companies are still facing the fines, and it's not a virtual issue. We have clients who are dealing with this, who are facing the fines for not establishing quite right cooperation with their contractors. So I know it's quite common in the IT branch, but this offense and the possibility of fine due to illegal employment is not going anywhere.
Okay, thanks. More questions? Anyone? Doesn't seem like it. Slider is also empty. So, thank you very much, David, and thank you for the lawyer perspective on flexible work.
No problem. I can be boring anytime, any day.
Well, usually lawyering is boring, and I talk to lawyers all the time, and yeah, it's usually boring. This wasn't, so thank you very much for that. Before I give you another 19 minutes of pause, there was one question in Slido which was asked after the meditation, which is Kevin De Vries, the techno producer, husband of Monique? So she isn't here anymore, but we asked her, and no, sadly, they are not related. So see you in 19 minutes. So, everyone, it's time for another presentation. So, kindly take your seats. We will begin shortly. So, everyone. Okay, so it seems that you are getting ready. So my question is, how many of you are dog people? Can you raise your hands, dog people? A few, okay. And cat people, raise your hands. Seems like we have more cat people than dog people, that's good. So our next speaker, who is Vladka from Pretty Much Nomads and Contesaur, is a cat person. So I hope this will be good. I have some notes that it might reflect on the presentation, so we'll see. And she will be speaking about how to manage a remote agency, which is really interesting for me because we have half remote agency. So take it away, Vladka.
Thanks. Okay, hello, guys. Yes, we are there. Perfect. So, a few numbers at the beginning. 16% of American companies are right now fully remote. 98% of American employees wishes that they could work fully remotely. And these are the actual numbers. Only 12%, almost 13%, are working remote. Almost 30% are working hybrid, and about 60% are now working in office. Another numbers. In 2021, it was only 42% of companies that had hybrid work model, and it's supposed to grow to 81% by 2024. And this is a nice one. Remote workers are 34 to 40% more productive. Those are really nice numbers that affect the way you work. But to get there, that's a different question. I would like to start with the beginning. There were two of us. There was me and Peter over there, and we were in Vietnam. It was year 2020, and it was December, and the COVID came. And we were a bit of stranded in a little village by the sea. It was a nice COVID vacation. But we were a bit bored, and boredom, of course, creates ideas. So we created our first app. And we thought, all right, so we are such a cool power couple. We are making like this amazing app that nobody wants, but we made it. And we said, all right, so it would be quite a cool idea to create actually an agency. As I said, the app wasn't a success, but then we had a better idea to connect my knowledge of marketing and Peter's knowledge of technology, and to merge it into an agency that focuses on IT companies and on UX writing. Today, we have a whole team of people that are working with us. We are close to 20 by now. Almost none of them are working full-time for us, just me. But we have a pretty nice team by now. As I said, today, we are a content marketing agency. We are working in Czech and English for IT companies. We are doing content strategy, copywriting, UX writing. We are the authors of the Place Your Bet on Tipsport website, and some other cool projects. We also have pretty neat clients, as Vincentrum, Swiss Life, and mainly technological companies. But it wasn't like this from the beginning, from the start. And it's always very hard to keep the standard and keep the process flowing and keep the people working. So let's talk about the troubles you face once you decide to actually work remotely. First, juniors. when you are working fully remote, there is no place for juniors. Let's face it. You need people that know what they are doing. You need seniors, maybe mid-years, like in the worst case. You have no time to pass knowledge, to pass know-how, to sit behind someone's back and just taking care of their learning curve, of their learning process, and of what they are doing. You need the people to work by themselves. We learned that the hard way. The second one is communication. Once you have a team of people that have never seen each other in real life, and they are only communicating via messaging, and via feedback, and via constructive criticism, well, I don't need to tell you that there are some troubles. It's really important not to let those things grow and to actually pull your company apart from the inside. Processes. If you want people to follow the same lead, to look at the same direction, to kind of follow the path you are imagining, you need to design that path. And if you don't do that, then people do different things differently. Remember, you have like a full team of seniors, so everybody knows the best what they are doing. So it's very hard to get them on the same page and to get them to follow some basic rules you have. Also, not everybody is a good fit. You need a specific kind of mentality and special kind of personality for those people to be able to work well in a fully remote team. You don't need people that are lazy, who aren't trustworthy, who aren't responsible, who are slackers. And that's fine. And also, if you are working as a digital nomad, as we were, and you are traveling the world and you are kind of a bit working for US companies, and then you come back to the Czech Republic and you are meeting the first clients, and you say, all right, hey, we are full remote agency, isn't it awesome? It's like COVID, it's great. And they're like, can you come to office by Tuesday? That's a big of an expectation bump we had, just to explain the clients that we are able to work remotely and that it won't affect the results of our work. Now we talked about the problems. Let's focus on solutions. Tools. Tools are the basic rules for everything. If you are working remotely, that's the only thing you have. We created our own app again. This time it was a better one. And we actually use it, and more people use it since the December this year when we launched it. It's basically an app. We are focusing on content marketing, so we are leading content marketing in there for our clients. This is the place where we communicate with clients. We get everything approved. We are working on the content that we create, everything that needs to be done, Kanban, like everything you need to do with the clients, with your team. The second tool we use is Slack, of course. Who doesn't know Slack, right? That's the place your managers would love to not exist, because usually the conversation that happen in Slack should happen in the project management tool. But it's really useful for like those quick exchanges that your team needs to have. Then we work with G Suite, of course. There is place for our documents, there is place for our emails, for our meetings, everything. And last but not least is Jira. Peter spent like 5 days at the beginning of our agency just to set the Jira right, just to be well adjusted to the kind of work and to the kind of processes we are imagining to work with. We use Jira for every tasks that are not connected directly to the content marketing that we do in Condesor. We use Jira for time tracking, for all those reports for clients, things like that. That was tools. Now let's talk about systems. when you try to work with new people, and in the contract world, you know that you sometimes need to work with different people on different projects. It's really good to it's really good to transfer to them all the information you need them to know. So that's why we created onboarding documents, onboarding process. We have all those videos on how to work with our Jira, on how to work with our Excel sheets, which I hate, but we use sometimes, and all the information that they should expect to know and to abide by while working with us. We also have clearly described roles and responsibilities. Each role in our company has like different levels of tasks and basically just things that we expect them to do well. There is also a junior position explained there, which we don't hire. Also, we have processes for work completion. We have a process for writing a blog post. We have a process of writing the text in general. We have a process for all of this, just so everyone knows what is expected from them, what we want them to think about before they even start writing. We also have codex and values, and it's very important, as I said, to have the right fit, right people in your company. So we have this codex, these values, and we want everyone to abide by them. And also share resources and templates. If we do some work for client once, then we make it a template, and we save it for the others to use when they are doing the same work for another client. So we have like brand manuals, lean canvases, all those things just shared for everyone in the team to use. You don't need to forget about the team care, because as I said, communication is basically like the most important thing you need to do once you are working remote and you want things to go smoothly. So we have regular meetings each week. We are meeting for half an hour, and I demand everyone to turn on the cameras, so at least we know how we look like. And then we have one-on-one feedback meetings. I have them with each member of the team I'm working on every month. That takes 15 minutes just to kind of chat, to see how they are doing, if everything's all right, if they are not bumping into any obstacles in their work, and if they are frustrated by anything, and if they are working well with other people from their team. Also shared education. When somebody goes somewhere, learns something new. When I studied like AI a lot, we started importing AI text generation in our team last June, I believe. So we had like really hard transfer of those data, of those processes, of those prompts into the team. And also team buildings. Every year, we set a date for a weekend, and anyone from the team can join. This is from last year, when we were in the mountains. There was about 7 of us, I guess. So it was really nice, like meeting the people you actually just met for the first time. The basic is an open communication and really, really, really careful hiring. And I will come to the conclusion with 4 points to remember, to take away. You need to remember that the start will be really tough. There is a lot of work cut out for you at the beginning. You need to set all those processes, all those things, all those documents, all those expectations you have from your team, and you need to put them down on the paper. You also need to spend several days just setting up the tools you need. If there are some people that just aren't the right fit, it's not their fault, it's not your fault, but they need to go. Just don't try to teach them work remotely, it doesn't work. And we've learned that like really hard way, and now we are quite skilled at that. Technical skills. If you are working remotely, you need people that are friendly with the computer, that are friendly with the apps, that know what copying and pasting means, you know? So basically, you need hungry people, hungry for innovation, hungry for technologies. You need people that when you introduce the new ChatGPT-4, they are like, wow, how can I use it? That's the type of people I'm looking for in my team. And when all is done, it's never all done, but when you are on the right way and you have like set all those milestones in the right places, then you can celebrate a bit and just, you know, take a step back and look at all the work that is happening, and you don't need to be micromanaging every step of what your team does, because they have the processes, they have the rules, they have the mechanics in place, and we are checking with them every month and asking them how they are doing. And that was all from me.
So I got 2 promises from Vladka, and one of them was a great presentation, and the second one was a lot of kittens. I think she delivered on both. And now for the questions. So I have 4 on Slido, but you are welcome to ask questions here as well. So first one is, are not juniors now replaced by ChatGPT, Jasper, and similar tools? You kind of talk about that, but...
Yeah, well, when I was talking about how to use ChatGPT and other AI text-generating tools in your copywriting work at Web Expo last year, this year actually. It's still online if you want to see that. It's on Slido. It's quite a nice talk. But I talked about how the juniors are not replaced by AI, but how they are sped up by AI. Because usually when I had juniors at the beginning of the agency and I assigned them a blog post to write, it took them like 8 hours, and the result was shite. You know, you couldn't use it. You just had like all those red marks from up to bottom, and it was like just, okay, rewrite it all. It has no structure, it has nothing. Now they have ChatGPT, and you can just tell them, okay, I need a blog post, and they can generate like that bad blog post in 2 seconds. And then you just need to, you know, say, all right, so what is wrong with this article? And they are, okay, so it lacks the structure, and say, okay, so work on your prompt. And then they are working on their prompt, and they are getting much further, much quicker.
Can I follow up question? This was my question. Do you see, like, with this increase of productivity, do you reflect it in the final price to the customers? Are you cheaper?
I am really open with my customers about the tools we use for the text creation as itself. But because our clients are mainly IT companies or tech companies, they are basically expecting us to use those tools usually. But it's not just about like generating the final result. We usually use it to brainstorm, to create some structures, to create some ideas, and then we work on them. We have a lawyer here, so I guess that he would also say that I'm right, that you cannot really just like copy-paste the result from the ChatGPT or any other tool and just sell it to your client. I think that's morally and legally wrong. So basically what you need to do is that you speed up your process and you actually charge more for the strategic work you do, not the writing that a junior can do. But I am still like having the same hour rate, whatever what I'm doing.
Thanks. Although, like, copy-pasting from ChatGPT, yes, is ethically wrong. Legally, it depends on the lawyer. Anyway, the next question. How do you achieve flexibility in the company with all the processes and rules you have?
The processes are really just a set of steps. It's not really a time frame. So I always say to my team, I don't care when you work, I don't care like whatever, but the deadline is the only rule we have, like at the end. So if they are abiding by the deadline or they are respectful to the deadline, then I have no trouble with anything. but the process is really just a set of steps, as I said. So basically the process says, all right, so before you start writing something, answer this question. Who are you writing for? What is the aim or goal of the text? Where will this text be displayed? And so on and so on and so on. So it's basically really like just a set of steps, so it's not like time dependent.
Thanks. Next question is, during the hiring process, any tips on how to make sure that you are hiring a responsible person that will fit the values?
I can say just one thing to this. We were looking for a copywriter for our team for the last 12 months. So yeah, it's really hard to find good fit, not only in their skill set, but also in their mindset. And at the end, we hired several people, we started working with several people now, and we are waiting for it to like show how they are doing.
Okay, and the second question, which is kind of related, is what kind of hiring process do you have? And have you ever hired someone who wasn't a fit in the end?
Oh, many times. But the hiring process takes, well, we tweaked it over the 3 years. So that first call is with Clara, our back office manager. She kind of vets the first round. Then the people she vets, well, she says okay, then are given an assignment, which we pay for. And this assignment consists of 2 parts. One part is writing, and one part is thinking. And we also give them incomplete assignment. So if they aren't asking for additional information, they are out. And then the third round is a call with me, where I also like ask them about how they think, how they work. I also am really frank about how we are working in the team, because some people aren't just ready for taking like such responsibility or such a criticism from their peers, because we are very vetting each text that comes out of us. At least 2 people take a look at it. So you are receiving a lot of feedback and need to know how to take it. So yeah, we hired a lot of wrong people that weren't the right fit. And I think that it's not important to do or to choose the right person at first try, but it's really important to let them go as quickly as you realize it.
Amazing. I think that at least like the 2 tips that you gave, we will definitely find if we can try them in our company, which is like paying people for the work they do in the hiring process. And the second one is to not hire people who don't ask questions about the assignment. Neat. Okay, so next question is, from how many countries does your team work, and are you hiring designers now?
Well, we are always open to collaboration, so if you want, we have just a form on our website. We are always looking for good people to work with, so if you are a right fit or you see yourself in this, just, pop us a message. But from how many countries? At which point? Like, at this point, I believe there are 4 people abroad. We have 1 person working from Portugal, like long term. We have 1 person traveling South America right now. We have 1 person in Moravia. Well, 1 person is in Poland. Yeah, I guess. And 1 is in New Zealand right now. So yeah, I don't really care, but I ask them because of the time difference.
Okay, thanks. And I know I originally mentioned there were 4 questions, but they keep coming. There's a lot of research on remote work, and half of it says that it makes us more productive, which you also mentioned in the presentation, and the other one says it makes us less productive. So what do you think of that?
I think there is a huge difference between remote work and home office, not only from the legal perspective, but also from the mindset perspective as such. Because if you are working on home office, you tend to just postpone the work. You tend to, cook the lunch or take care of children or to, I don't know, just rest after the lunch or whatever, because you are an employee and you are still paid for the whole day. And usually managers, especially in big corporations, aren't as skilled as to check upon the work done or have some control mechanisms in place. However, if you are working remotely and you have full responsibility for the amount of work you hand in, and you are actually paid for the work you hand in, then you tend to be pretty productive, especially when you're looking at this view and you are sitting there working.
Yeah, I wouldn't know if this view would make me more or less productive. That's doubtful. Anyway, thank you very much. And the last, a bit lighter question: what's your favorite destination for remote work?
Well, definitely not Vietnam. We had the most great, let's say that when you are working from Western countries, the level of services, the level of, let's say, connections you make, the environment that is around you is higher, but also are the prices. So it doesn't really pay to work from West. When you are working from the Eastern countries, especially from Asia, it's really cost effective. You can afford much more. However, the services aren't always as top-notch as you would wish for. And also there could be some food trouble.
So is the answer just to stay here in Middle Europe? Or?
We had a great time in Romania, actually. The food was amazing. The costs were okay. We had a great time in northern Thailand. A great mecca of digital nomads as well. I mean, Chiang Mai and then Pai and all those other destinations up there are really nice. Depends whether you are more like a jungle person or a sea person. But yeah, it's really nice and cheap there.
Okay, thanks. That's all from Slido, but do we have more questions from the room?
Yeah, why not Vietnam? What happened?
Well, we were in Vietnam for 3 months at the time during COVID, and we made the biggest mistake while deciding to stay in Saigon or Ho Chi Minh City for 2 months, and then being at this village for a month. And Saigon was not really a good place that I could recommend for people. I know that a lot of people are happy there. I know a lot of digital nomads that recommend Saigon. For us, we were scammed there several times. They sold us an entrance to the fitness center, and they revoked it after a week or something, and we had paid for 3 months. And it was and we paid for the co-work center for a month, and the second day they came up to us and said, all right, so we are closed for next 3 weeks. And this kept happening. So I don't know if it was karma or bad luck, but we didn't really enjoy our stay there. Not talking about the cockroaches in our room. There was a colony.
Scary. More questions?
Do you have any challenges in the team because of lack of social interactions?
Oh, definitely. That's why I was talking about communication. When you have different people thinking differently and talking differently in a team, that they are only writing to each other, it definitely stirs the pot. It definitely causes all those little dramas that you need to deal with. And that's why it's so important for me to check with each one of them every month and to just ask them specifically how you are doing with this person, this person, this person. Is everything all right? Is anything bothering you? And we actually dealt with such a situation this summer where two people in the team weren't really like getting along so well, and we really addressed the issue. And that's the open communication that I was talking about. It's not always the way. People aren't always open to it, but then again, maybe they are not the right fit, or you need to just move them up in the team just so they work with someone else. But it's kind of a useless drama that you need to deal with.
And how do you make those, let's say, like social calls or check-in calls productive? Because, for example, like for us, then it takes quite some time that we just address some issues, but also like check in socially how we're doing. And like it takes, like hour, 2 hours, like a week it can take.
Okay.
And like it's not really like effective if people don't work full time, which is also like our situation that we have like different like part-timers.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering like how you make it effective in 15 minutes and find out really how they are, like what they are about, how their life is, if they deal with something.
First, we started with an hour. Then I cut it to half an hour. Now we are a few months back, cut to 15 minutes. And it's down to 4 questions I ask them.
Okay.
The first question is, what's new with you? How are you doing? Like, really? I just don't need to hear fine. The second question is, what work did make you happy or did you enjoy in the last month? Which work bothered you and you hated the last month? And what about the other people from the team? How are you getting along? And that's basically the only 4 questions I ask. And if they are repeatedly telling me that they are bothered about some work, I try to just assign it to someone else.
Okay. So you don't really like have any like friendships within, like I don't mean it in a bad way, but like if you then interact like more socially, then like cut it off in 15 minutes, you know what I mean?
Well, if they want to talk longer, I'm always open to it.
But then time check off.
But the time is ticking, sure. But we are having a nice relationship with some of the people that we are working with longer, that we are working with more intensely, for example. But I don't think that friendship is necessary for a good company to work. I think that basic respect, basic, let's say, listening to each other and trying to accommodate each other's needs should be like human, shouldn't be just tied with friendship. So when a person comes to me and says, all right, so my mother is sick now and I won't be handing over this project because I need to go to the hospital right away and I will be like away for the next 2 months, I'm not going to start to yell at them. I mean, life happens, and I don't need to be a friend with them.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, thanks.
Welcome.
On a bit lighter note, are you getting to 7.5 minutes eventually?
Well, with certain people, I think that would be more effective, yeah. Because I have like really analytical people in my team, like some of them are. So it's basically, how are you doing? Fine. What project did you enjoy? This one. All right, so what did bother you? This and this. Okay, what about other people? Everything's fine. And then it's all right, so what do you want to talk about now? So yeah, with some people, like, as I said, we are writing for technical companies or for IT companies. So a big part of my team is really analytical, technical person, people. So yeah, it could be more efficient with some of them.
Hi, Zdeněk here. We are like 100% a remote company, and I like that. I think we are doing great. But I think like we missing something. Like some synergy. Like you can like find so many things like over morning coffee with your coworkers and something like that. Do you have the same feeling, or I am just like weird?
This is actually like the sentence I've written in my LinkedIn post while promoting this. Because I've heard it at one networking some while back, that a person told me, all right, but you know, you are missing like those little meetings by the coffee machine, that, you know, you can deal with everything, and that you can just chat with the others and just have like this great ideas popping. I don't say it's impossible. I'm just saying it's not necessary. When you have a team full of senior people who know what they are doing, and we also have regular meetings on different projects, on different clients, just to brainstorm online. We do have those in place every 3 months or every month, depending on the client. So you can brainstorm online, you can discuss ideas online, and you are more focused because you know that the time is ticking and there is just a time allocated to this task. But again, you are back to the processes. If your people and your team don't have time to be creative or don't have allocated like process or time to be creative, to brainstorm, to discuss things, then they won't do it. And then you are cutting short like this potential you could have in your team that they could have while meeting at the coffee machine.
Thanks for the answer. We'll have one more last question, and we are kind of having another presentation in 3 minutes, so let's get on with it.
Hi, so I have a question because it sounds like you have a lot of work upon your shoulders, a lot of responsibilities upon you. So my question is, if the company was 10 times bigger, what would be the changes you would implement right now?
I think that right now we are kind of at the limit of number of people without middle management. Because right now I'm like the only manager, let's say, and then we have like this pool of people that are working with each other. So yes, if the company would grow, then I would need to create this layer between me and the teams, let's say. I don't think it's necessary at this point. We will see what next year brings. But I'm also learning to delegate more, which is something that I struggle with a bit, but I'm better. So yes, as I said, we now started working with 4 new people. So I'm getting rid of more operative tasks, of more project tasks, and we will see how it goes. If I get my hands untied and I have more time to focus on the business side, on the sales side, on the strategic side of the company, then we may grow, and if we may grow, then I will make some good processes for the middle management.
Thank you. And that's Vladka.
Thank you very much.
So thanks again, Vladka, for the amazing presentation about how to manage companies which are working remotely. And now we'll have a talk by Vojta from Applifting, one of my friends. Well, we have friends in Applifting, so it's okay. And Vojta will be talking from the other end of the perspective as someone who worked abroad recently. So what to say about Vojta? Vojta doesn't just work at Applifting, he also is an entrepreneur, and he has an app called Dio, which is trying to digitalize religion, which is a fascinating subject. I definitely support you asking questions during networking about this, because he can talk hours about it. I don't know if he's a cat person or dog person. Cat person,
Lovely.
Perfect.
I like Vladka's presentation a lot. Oh, no, perfect. Is it good?
Okay.
Okay.
And the presentation?
I don't know, some, no. No, no.
You have to open it somehow.
This is it.
Ta-da.
Perfect. Okay, thank you, Philip. Thank you so much, everyone. I hope you will make it without the break this time. It's the last presentation of today, so you will survive, and then you can just spend hours eating and drinking all what's left. So thank you so much for sticking to it. So far, you have seen the perspective on remote work from a lawyer, and so that we now know what's actually possible and what's not, and that it's much easier to be a contractor if you want to work remotely. And we've also seen, thanks to Vladka, how it works to actually manage a completely remote agency. The reason I'm here today is because I should tell you and give you a glimpse of how it works to actually be a remote worker and what's the reality of life as a digital nomad. Before I do that, I think it would be quite useful first to introduce myself, to kind of explain why I am talking about the topic even here. So I work here at Applifting as a partnership developer and as HR marketing strategist. As Philip said, I am also a startupist, so I have some background. I've created 3 projects of my own, those being Dio, Parade, and Compi. And I have some corporate background since working as a graphic designer at Avast as well. Besides work, I am actually quite an adventure seeker, so I love diving, I like surfing, I love hiking, and all of these crazy things. And those were obviously one of my motivations why I even wanted to try remote. So at the beginning of this year, I did a very short experiment. Basically from day to day, or maybe from 2 days, I decided that I will go to Croatia and I will spend 2 weeks working away from my team just to see how it feels to be in a hotel room, you know, working just next to your bed, not being connected with your colleagues. And the experiment went fabulous. It was amazing, and I actually realized I love it. And I loved the fact that I could, every day after work, go and explore something new. It was just so much more fun than being here back home. So I said, okay, that's a good sign. Let's make it proper. And this summer, I spent 4 months working from Indonesia, specifically from Bali and Lombok. Lombok was like a similar story to your Vietnam story, so that wasn't the best one. I'm not going to talk much more about that, but let's focus on Bali for now. I'm extremely grateful that I was able to do this adventure, and it was for a big part thanks to Applifting, because we do things a little differently. We are built on teal culture, flexibility, and freedom. And that means that I didn't really have any manager that I would go to and I would ask like, hey boss, can I go and work from Bali? And he would say, no. It was like a little different. Instead, I just went to my colleagues that I work with the most, that means marketing and HR, and I explained them the dream that I had. I explained what I want to do, why I want to do it, and I asked them if they trust me that I'll be able to succeed and that I'll be able to deliver. And I was really lucky because actually every single one of them said, okay, we can try it. And we made a deal that if it doesn't work, that I will return. And that's how I could leave. Otherwise, if you don't know Applifting, we are an international software house. We are based in Prague and in London. We are almost 200 people big at this moment. And we are basically digital product builders, working with AI, web, and mobile apps. And now, finally, let's get to the part why you are here. I was thinking how to structure this. I didn't want it to be like a motivational presentation full of fancy Instagram shots of drinking margaritas with my laptop on the sandy beach, which doesn't really work in reality, to be honest. So I structured it as 17 hacks from my trip that you can apply if you actually go and travel, and that if you want to do this adventure, you should be able to somehow implement them into your life. And no, 17 is not any magical number. I would believe it's just the amount that somehow fits into 20 minutes. So yeah, not fun. So it's important to realize that your journey as a digital nomad will begin way before you actually board any fancy big planes and go to fancy destination. It's going to begin months before that. So my first tip is to organize your tasks, because there's a lot to do. So make a system. For this, I recommend using Notion or Asana. You may think it's a bit too much for organizing your personal life in these corpo tools, but believe me, you will have so much stuff that you have to take care of. For example, I had to sell my furniture, I had to move my stuff to my family, I had to stop renting my flat, cancel subscriptions, get insurance. There's a lot. So for this, the best way is to create a simple Kanban board with a to-do list, the doing list, and the done list, and start a few months ahead. With this, you'll be able to get everything sorted out, and you will be able to leave your life somehow intact and ready for you to jump back to it after your turn. The second tip is to start in advance. Because things take time, and this is especially true for stuff like visa or flights. If you are going to Croatia and you want to work remotely from Croatia, you can skip this slide. It's okay, you don't need visa to work from there. But if you want to go to the fun countries like Laos, Vietnam, or Thailand and Indonesia, then it's really important. So you can see this is a screenshot of my subtasks in Notion, where I had all of the things that I had to do. And it's a form, it's a photograph, it's a passport, it's it's the flight tickets in and out, it's my bank account statement, and so on and so on. It goes like, it's really long. And I had to go 2 times to the Indonesian embassy just to make sure that they'll let me stay in that country for a long time. And the worst thing that can happen to you is that you'll buy your tickets, and then you will realize that you don't have time to get the necessary visa. So what do? Do you like stay in the Czech Republic, or do you just fly there and spend a week before you have to leave? So make sure that this doesn't happen to you. Then I have another one, and it's research your flights. We all know how to buy flight tickets, so I'm not gonna explain how to do that. But believe me, if you are flying to your vacation in Rome, it's much simpler than if you decide to fly to the other side of the world and you're gonna spend maybe some time there and then fly again. There is a lot of money to be saved and a lot of money to be lost. So I have 4 simple rules that I go by when I'm buying these tickets, and it's just save thousands. The first one is to search on places like Skyscanner or Google Flights, which actually include all of these different small resellers, so you are going to know that's the best deal, and they are going to research the best options. The second one is don't buy self-transfer. This looks like this on Skyscanner, and you should really imprint it in your mind, because they think it's like a small badge there. But if you buy a flight with this, and you are connecting to a flight in some random country, you'll have to take your luggage, you'll have to leave the airport, enter that country with special visa, and do the whole process again. And if your first flight is cancelled, then you are fucked, because the airline is not going to care about you. So make sure you are not buying tickets with self-transfer. It's really not nice. I think Kiwi is calling it cestovatelský hack, like a travel hack. So they're making a bug a feature. I think that's quite mean, but yeah. Buy in advance. This is very simple. When I was flying to Bali, I bought my tickets few months before the trip, and I spent 12K in Czech crowns. When I was flying back, I bought them for certain reasons 5 days ahead, and I spent 25K. So really, the time makes a difference. And then the last one is buy directly from the airline. This is just like a safety precaution. If anything happens, the resellers are not going to care about you at all. Simple one, get Revolut now. Because Revolut is amazing. I'm not working for them, but if you're using, don't pay unnecessary bank fees, skip them with a premium Revolut subscription. Really, it's true. So you can pay $7 a month, and you're going to have the same service as back in your country. You can pay in any currency, any part of the world, and it's not going to cost anything extra. So this changed the way how we can travel and how we can do, the digital nomad thing, and it's going to save you so much money. Now I have a well-being tip, and that's don't leave your plans open. Always schedule in advance, and don't make the stay indefinite. This has 2 reasons. One of them is still practical, because, for example, if you know that you're going to return in 2 months, you may not need to sell off all of your furniture. So that's quite nice. And the other one is really psychological. So if you have 1 point in your calendar when you know you have to return, or when you are going to return to the country where you're from, you will also enjoy your time there much more, because we tend to appreciate the time more if we know that it's limited. This is a very good thing. And on the other hand, if you don't do this, believe me, living in a completely different environment is challenging, and you're going to feel like it has no end, and you're really going to get frustrated and maybe even burn out. So really plan a time when you're going to return, or maybe switch the country, travel somewhere else, but don't leave the plans completely open. Okay, now we have finally prepared for the trip. You board the fancy A380 and fly to Dubai, and then you fly to your fancy other destination, and there's the culture shock. No, it's not that scary, but it's something that happens to a lot of people. It's nothing to be ashamed of, but if you switch the environment, you're used to being in Western Europe, and then you land in Southeast Asia where everything is messy, you don't understand what the people think. That was a big problem. I couldn't read their faces, and I didn't know if they are making fun of me or their friends. You see this traffic, you smell all that stuff on the street. So just be prepared for the culture shock, and schedule some time. What I did is that I arrived on Thursday. I planned that my Friday will be off, and then I had the weekend. So this was the time to really just settle in, unpack, go to cafes, really just be more present in that different culture. I'm going to be completely honest. I cried a few times during these few days, and I felt like I just want to go home, and that it was the most stupid idea of my life. And if I had to work during that time, I really wouldn't be that happy. productivity tip: choose the right co-working space. By now, you can probably tell that I plan a lot and I research a lot, and that's what I did with co-working spaces as well. So I made like a huge research of like every single co-working space there is in Canggu, in Bali. And so I thought, okay, this one is going to be the best one. That's where I'm going to work from, and it's going to be just amazing. Then I arrived, and I was feeling uncertain, so I just, to be sure, I visited a few of them, and I found out that the reality differs completely from what you can find on the internet. So what I would recommend, like, it doesn't matter where you go. It can be Bali, where there are tens of co-working spaces. It can be some small city or a village, or like Brno, and there you can, see the one that's there. But still, it's worth it to see it with your own eyes. And if there's anyone going to Canggu, the best one there is Bework. You don't even have to visit it because I work there and it's like fabulous. There's a pool in the garden and a shala on the roof. Okay, you have settled in. The culture shock is gone, and it's your first week. And now there's loneliness. No, there's not loneliness. That's the next slide. I'm sorry. Spoiler. No, you should build your rituals. That's what I wanted to say. Rituals is something that we all have in our regular lives. It's what kind of keeps us sane. It's those steady points that we have during our days, during our weeks, during our months that get us grounded. For me, for example, before I left to Bali, it was already yoga. I used to practice every morning, and I kept that tradition when I arrived there. I know for some people it may be that they wake up early, they go to the coffee machine, they make themselves a cup of coffee, and then drink it in the bed for 20 minutes, and they just enjoy that. It doesn't matter whether it's yoga, workout, runs, coffee, journaling, or reading. Just find those things that you like to do and keep them. Or if you are not able to keep them in the different country, then just figure out new ones. But it's really important to have that structure in your life. Make your room your own. This is something I didn't do, but I learned it from a very good friend of mine who is living in Bali right now. So he's a big Rasta guy, and what he did is that he brought his favorite Rastafarian flags from his Prague home to Bali, and the first thing that he did in every hotel and in every apartment was that he packed them out, and he decorated his walls and his bed and everything in Rasta colors. And it made like such a big difference because already he was feeling like he's at home. Because the hotel rooms you're going to stay at, they're going to be white, they're going to be, not interesting, and you are still going to feel like you're not where you're supposed to be or not in your safe space. So I would advise you to either like bring or buy some posters, photos, decorations, whatever makes you feel cozy, and decorate that space where you are actually living in. I believe now is the time for loneliness. Yes, loneliness. That's the scary one. And to prevent loneliness, you can do two different things, which are the easiest ones. The first one is to join communities. The best approach, how you can do this, is using co-working spaces or co-living spaces. In the co-working spaces around the world, there are like amazing community managers who are planning everything all the time. So I joined a group on AI, on marketing, on tech startups, and I could meet with people who are like-minded with me. And straight away from the very beginning of that stay, I had some group of friends that I could hang out with, which is a huge deal breaker because you don't want to be alone in a completely different environment. Another thing you can do is look on online sites like meetup.com or Facebook. And that way I found like a board gaming cafe in Bali, which I was really surprised to see. But there really is a community of people on that tropical island who play board games every week. And again, it's amazing to just be with some peers who share the same passion. Another way how to beat loneliness, which is quite easy, is to maintain contacts with your friends and family. This is also important, not just at that point of time, but because when you return, you don't want to have your relationships broken with your parents or your best friends that are here. So it's really crucial to find time for them, even when they don't feel like the most important people in the world. And I would definitely advise you to schedule that video call with your grandma just to see how she's doing and make sure that she still remembers you are her grandson. Enjoy your life. I have met so many nomads who went to Bali, they rented out a villa. From Monday to Friday, they would work in a co-working space, and during the weekend, they would lie in their pool and watch Netflix. I didn't understand. I mean, yes, it's cool, We all agree on that. But you're on a tropical island and you can surf the waves, you can dive the oceans, you can climb the volcanoes. So when you arrive somewhere, when you make that extra effort, you suffer through the loneliness, you suffer from the culture shock, then really enjoy your life and do some things that you cannot do back home. Now this is the boring part, this is the productivity tips. Schedule your work time transparently. Time zones are a bitch, and they can be really difficult. It's much easier if you go to Southeast Asia than if you go to America, because if you are working with people from Europe, because you'll be ahead of time, and I believe that working at night is much more bearable than waking up at 2 a.m. in the morning. But it's important to be transparent. So as you can see on this screenshot, I created these 8-hour slots, which said this is the time I'm working and available. And I kept that for every day, and I made sure they are really up to date. So for example, when I had some unscheduled plan, I would update this. And this meant that all of my colleagues who were working with me always knew that I am available or I'm not available. So if I didn't respond, they could just look to my calendar and they knew if they can call if I'm sleeping or whatever is happening. So this is a really neat trick, and I think everyone liked that quite a lot. Focus like a pro. I was really surprised that when I moved there, it was much easier to do the big tasks, to focus on the bigger projects that had a long picture, or the big picture. And I was making much more work, because you are missing out on these small conversations which lead to very small tasks that occupy most of your day if you are in the office talking to your coworkers. But on the other hand, if you have this 8-hour block during the day, which is maybe split up just by one meeting, it's still really hard to think about work when you can also go surf or dive. So I was thinking about what to do with that, and I found this amazing list. It's by the company Todoist. It's a list of productivity techniques with amazing explanations. I really recommend looking at this. And I was using some of them even before. And the best one I used over there was the Pomodoro technique. I think most of the people are familiar with it. If not, the Pomodoro technique works in a way that you basically schedule what you're going to do for the next 25 minutes. You write it on a paper or in Toggle, and you do just that one thing, and then you take a 5-minute break. You repeat 4 times, and then you take a longer break. It works like magic. Then is the Eisenhower matrix. And the Eisenhower matrix is basically way how you can decide which projects or which tasks are the most important ones and which are not. I can maybe explain this a little bit better here. So it's basically like a simple table where you have the urgent tasks, the not urgent tasks, and then you have the important tasks and the not important tasks. This is what you should do. The ones that are urgent and important. The ones that are only important but not urgent, you should schedule. The ones that are urgent but not important, you should delegate. And these ones you shouldn't do at all, because if they're not urgent and not important, then why the hell should you care about them? So this is a very good way how when you have like a lot of tasks, how you can approach it. And the last one is obvious one. It's Kanban. It's the style of board. It is like a Japanese project management tool that I also used in my first tip. And it's those columns where you have the tasks that you have to do that you are doing that are already done. So I see some people scanning. Oh, we are good. Okay. Okay, you made it through the first month, and now this is the last part of the presentation, the long-term stay. You should ask for feedback. I began the presentation with saying that I talked to my colleagues and I told them that if things don't work out, I will return. But you should really check in with them, because otherwise you won't know. So make sure to, from time to time, to write a message to everyone that you are working with and ask how they are doing and how they are doing with your job. And maybe you will find some interesting feedback on how we can improve things, and it's going to make everyone so much happier. I have a different opinion than you, Vladka, now. I'm going to feel a little bit bad because you're so much more experienced in this, but okay. Schedule virtual water cooler chats. I think they are important. Even I would say they are vital, as I wrote in the presentation, so don't kill me. And I'm going to reveal a big secret. I have been having a meeting with my colleagues that we call the Growth of Supernaturally Successful Intelligent Personalities. The bright ones will see that the abbreviation of that is gossip. And that's exactly what we do at those meetings. And we kept those meetings even when we were, when I was in Bali and we were online. And I think it made such a great, big difference because I felt like part of the team, even though I wasn't with those guys. And I know, like, without this, I would feel completely sad without people from my team. The last one is another one, practical to save you money. Book your accommodation directly. This works especially in Asia, so you can search your accommodation on sites like Booking.com or the similar ones, but then you can do this check thing and Google their WhatsApp number and text them, and they're gonna rent out the property for a month with like minus 20%, and they are gonna be so much happy because they won't have to pay the fees to Booking, so it's basically helping the local communities if you think about it like that. And that's it from me. Thank you so much for your attention, and now the only question is, where will your journey take you?
Great talk, Vojta.
Thank you.
Thanks for that. And like, I think everybody appreciated how it spoke about Bali. But the first question on Slido is, we want to hear the good and the bad, so tell us about Lombok.
Shit. Well, the problem with Lombok is that, well, firstly, I didn't really like the vibe of the island, but that's more of my personal opinion. But the actual like practical thing is that there's no community. There are 2 co-working spaces. One of them looks like it's been there for like a million years, and no one renovated it. So, and when I did my tour, I said no. And then there is the other one, which is like super luxurious, but it has like 5 co-working spaces, and most of the days I was there alone. And then there is also no good yoga, so that's where I usually meet my community as well. So I could meet people there as well, and I was just lonely from the day, from the moment I woke up till the moment I went to sleep. Yeah, that's why not Lombok.
Okay, thanks. The second question, and I was a bit like chuckling when I read it.
Okay.
Have you tried to rent a motorbike?
Yes. I was in the hospital, like, because of one accident, I was in the hospital 5 times. Motorbikes are recommended, yeah.
So what happened?
I was definitely not going too fast. Definitely, that's not what happened. So I was going at a perfectly too crazy speed during, like, in a turn, and there was a pile of sand, because that's what happens in those countries. And I rode into that pile of sand, and I slid on the road, and I ended up in a hospital. That's like the short version.
Thank you. Anyway, I think that the person who asked if you tried to rent a motorbike, if it wasn't someone from us, maybe was asking about, like, is it difficult or something?
Well, it's insanely easy to rent a motorbike. They don't, like, you can be like 10 years old, they're going to rent you a motorbike. It's also super cheap, so that's convenient, but then it's hard not to die, especially in Bali, where you remember the picture, you know, with the traffic. That's like a normal street. That's not a special occasion on a special day. So if your life is dear to you, then maybe like just use Gojek or Grab, which is like with the Uber of Southeast Asia.
Okay. So, do you want to go nomad again? And where to?
I think maybe I should balance things with going to the Nordic countries now, you know, to have the opposite. But the problem is that, as Vatka said, it's insanely expensive. So maybe like if Applifting wants to expand there, then maybe you can pay me like a Norwegian salary.
I can definitely say that if you will sell us, like you sell Revolut, then yeah.
We have a deal. No, yeah, so I think maybe like a different country, but I think I'm not going to go back to Southeast Asia for now.
Okay, thanks. Next question is, have you tried working while traveling, meaning you were not staying each day at the same place?
No, I haven't tried it. I met a lot of people who did, who stayed just like a few days at one place, but I think it's insane. I stayed at least 1 month at every place. Yeah, you agree with me. See, I'm right. And you have to focus on your work. Like that was the first thing that I was thinking about, is that my work cannot be affected by the fact that I'm traveling around the globe. And if I was changing the spot every day, then like, how could I do anything?
thanks. Would you guys like to add something to that? Have you tried it?
It's really hard.
Okay.
Predict everything. Yeah? You cannot predict the day.
Yeah.
Time blocks where we're working hard.
Okay, thanks. So next question. Did you read the 4-Hour Work Week by Tim Ferriss prior to your travels? And did you have a 4-hour work week?
4-hour work? No, well, I didn't read it, so shame on me, maybe. And no, I just worked like, maybe I worked even a little bit more than back here, actually. So I worked just 5 days a week, 8 hours a day.
So that's point for more productivity abroad, right? Okay. Are you not scared that you can get scammed when renting without Airbnb?
Well, you can read the reviews. They usually say if the people who are renting the property are nice. Then also, yes, you can get scared, but if that happens, you're going to lose like 10,000 Czech crowns for a month of accommodation. So that's like a risk I'm willing to take.
Okay. And last question from Slido, which is, what surprised you most from all of these 4 months?
Probably how amazing Western food you can get in Bali. Because after a while, I had enough of nasi goreng. I didn't want to eat nasi goreng 3 times a day anymore. So I started going for pizza and for pasta and for everything. And they had like everything even better than here. I don't know how they do it, but the Indonesian people are such good chefs of Western cuisine.
I'm not going to lie, I did not expect that answer. Yeah. Okay, do we have any questions in the room? Anyone? Maybe I can have a question. Like, who of you is considering going to work abroad? Most of you, yeah. Who actually tried it before? Is there like a distinct difference between those 2 groups of people? Interesting. Okay, so thank you very much, Vojta, and yeah, thanks for the presentation.
Thank you so much, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, everyone, for being here with us tonight. And this is the official end of the talks. But still, you can stay here, have a chat, have some drinks, kombucha instead of beer. And you can definitely have some snacks because there's quite a lot. And if you have any more questions, do not hesitate to reach out to any of the speakers, most of which are still here, half of which are still here. So I'll count Peter, and that makes it most. So thanks, and have a good evening.